I'm also joined by Yashovardhan Azadji. He's former Secretary, Cabinet Secretariat, someone who understands security, someone who also understands the issue of rights, information. My first question to you, I don't want to start with the usual thing. Why can't internet be allowed in its full spectrum in Manipur? It's more than 90 days. Azad sir, why this limited broadband? Why can't people access net? I mean to say complete paramilitarization of the society has taken place. I'll show you the ground report also, where where the bullets, weapons are casually resting with those who are advocates, bottle makers, in juice industry, and they're defending their what? They're defending their land. The land is supposed to be defended by Indian Army, paramilitary and security forces. They defend it. So the people are defending the land. But more than that, why no complete access to internet? Internet is not now gimmick game. It's service.
Well, internet shutdowns have been resorted by authorities in the state or by the center. Initially, when there is an unfolding of a huge crisis, say for example in a communal situation or in a question of complete breakdown of law and order machinery, it may help for a few days because you want things to get into order, you want the law and order to get into shape, and you want things to be arranged at that particular place. Now, in this case, it has gone too far. And I agree with you that beyond a week or so, the internet shutdowns, in fact, become more disadvantageous. Mind you, in Manipur, the students are affected, the industry is affected, the people are affected, and the common man is affected. Now, the reason given is, Karthikeya, that, there should not be any kind of rumors, there could not be any kind of floating of unwanted videos. But the point is, these kind of rumors are taking place through other means. I mean, mouth to mouth, things are going on. So, in fact, with the internet, if you use it properly and the state uses it, the NGO and the civil societies use it, appeals are made by the peace committees, is going to make a positive impact too. So, I think overall, if you look at it, internet shutdowns for more than 2 months, they become self-defeating. And I agree with you at this particular point of time, when people are suffering so much, the refugees who are in camps, I think their number is around 50,000. It has become really self-defeating. And we should get the internet back. The High Court had given an order, and now I believe only broadband is allowed, yet the mobile internet, mobile Wi-Fi, all that is not allowed. So people will be still in the dark. The information is not coming. And it's about time. It's about 3 months. Either the house should have been set in order and things should be functioning. So at least give the people the basic things, which is their right.
Okay. I'm also joined by noted author Rami Niranjan Desai. Rami, I'll play out a walkthrough. This is from a bunker and I'll take your comment, We have done a full-fledged ground report from Manipur. Have a look at the walkthrough, then I'll frame my question. Let's play out that walkthrough from the bunker.
तकरीबन 40 मिनट पहाड़ों में चलने के बाद इस वक्त हम एक और पोस्ट पर पहुंचे और ये देखें, मैं दिखाना चाहूँगा आपको पोस्ट। इस पोस्ट के ऊपर भी वॉलंटियर्स मौजूद हैं जो कि 24 घंटे यहाँ पर ठीक हथियारों के साथ ड्यूटी देते हुए दिखाई दे रहे हैं। और तस्वीरें आप देखिए, तमाम तरीके के जो वेपन्स हैं यहाँ पर इन्होंने अपनी सुरक्षा के लिए, अपनी ज़मीन को बचाने के लिए यहाँ पर रखे हुए हैं। आप ये देखिए किस तरीके से सिंगल बैरल यहाँ पर रखी हुई है। इसके अलावा ये देखिए अपनी ज़मीन को बचाने के लिए किस तरीके से 24 घंटे ये सामने नज़र रखते हैं। ठीक सामने आप ये पहाड़ी देख रहे हैं, ये वो पहाड़ी है जहाँ से फायरिंग होती है। और ठीक ये सामने देखिए बंकर यहाँ पर बनाया गया है, तमाम वेपन यहाँ पर, लाइव कार्टेजेस। इसके अलावा ये देखिए यहाँ पर बाकायदा यहाँ पर ये दूरबीन भी रखी गई है और इसी दूरबीन की मदद से देखा जाता है कि आखिरकार ये फायरिंग हो किधर की तरफ से रही है और उसके बाद उस फायरिंग का ये लोग जवाबी कार्रवाई उसको रिटेलिएट ये लोग करते हैं। और तस्वीरें आप देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से ये जो बंकर है, दरअसल ये जो स्थानीय लोग हैं उन्होंने अपने बंकर यहाँ पर बनाए हुए हैं। और बंकर के अंदर देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर बाकायदा टॉर्च यहाँ पर आपको दिखाई देगी, यहाँ पर आपको लाइव कार्टेजेस दिखाई देंगे, यहाँ पर सिंगल बैरल जो बंदूकें हैं वो यहाँ पर दिखाई देंगी। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से वेपन्स यहाँ पर इन्होंने लिए हुए हैं। बाय प्रोफेशन आप क्या है?
साउंड इंजीनियर सर। साउंड इंजीनियर।
ओके, तो आप साउंड इंजीनियर हैं और कब से यहाँ ड्यूटी दे रहे हैं? कब से ड्यूटी दे रहे हैं यहाँ पर?
Plus?
Since how long you here? Since how long you here?
It's around 2 months. From the conflict, they are already here. It's a Renkai village volunteer. They have been here for the past 2 months.
You are a businessman?
Yes, I'm an entrepreneur.
Okay.
This is my own product.
What was your business?
I manufacture juice plus I own a bottling company.
Then why are you here?
I'm here because I need to protect my land. I need to live my business.
तो आप देखिए अपनी जमीन को बचाने के लिए, क्योंकि अब दरअसल दोनों गुट आमने सामने हैं और एक दूसरे की जमीन को कब्जाने की जो जंग है वो यहां पर शुरू हो गई है, और उसके बाद इस जंग को बिना हथियारों के ये लोग नहीं जीत सकते। और ये देखिए यही वजह है कि वॉकी टॉकी इसके अलावा वेपन्स के साथ यहां पर ये देखिए ये बंकर है, और इसी बंकर के अंदर 24 घंटे ये लोग यहाँ मौजूद रहते हैं। और ठीक इसी बंकर में यहाँ पर बैठकर ठीक सामने जो आप ये पहाड़ी देख रहे हैं, इसी पहाड़ी की तरफ इनकी 24 घंटे नजर होती है, जहां से कभी भी इनके ऊपर फायरिंग शुरू हो जाती है, और उसके बाद इन्हीं बंदूकों की मदद से ये लोग विरोधी गुट को जवाब दे पाते हैं। तो देखिए चारों तरफ आपको यहाँ पर वेपन्स दिखाई देंगे, ये देखिए आपको यहाँ पर जो लाइव कार्टेजेस हैं वो यहाँ पर दिखाई देंगे रखे हुए, और इन्हीं की मदद से ये लोग अपनी जमीन को बचाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, ऐसा इनका कहना है।
So, Azad Saab, if you look at this ground report, you have people with weapons. They are advocates. They are people from different walks of life. They have done their barricading. In another walkthrough, I'll show you. One person is saying they allow Assam Rifle, Indian Army, and media to pass by. How do you understand this paramilitarization? You know, it's like they have created their own security zones, and the forces of the state somehow live in a parallel universes with the forces on ground.
Are you asking me, Kartikeya?
Absolutely, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was watching this and I'm actually horrified. But it happens if you have a protracted civil war of this kind, where it goes on continuing into a stalemate with neither side believing the other side and perhaps losing faith in the ability of the state administration also to bring about order or any kind of peace, then these things are bound to happen. I'm so sorry to see this, that these young men of such great promise, if only they were fighting for our motherland together, or fighting for the state, or becoming a part of the civil society to keep peace together. But unfortunately, the bunkerized version, which we see today, earlier we saw that there were bunkers prepared to save the villages. And now these are these outposts which have been created. This is leading us into a deeper spiral of violence, which is begetting violence. And therefore, I think, Kartikeya, this is immediately the time for government to strike. They should dismiss this government totally. In fact, I would also suggest that in the president's rule, they must get a governor who's knowledgeable of the area, who's from one of these. There are excellent officers from this cadre in the IAS and IPS who would love to respond to the call of the state. He should be brought in, or she should be brought in as a governor. The advisors should be brought in immediately. And then it should also be a tall leader like Gadkari should be nominated to start the political law. There is no time to lose now, because if this goes on for a long time, you'll actually need a formal ceasefire to be brought about between these opposing militias. And mind you, apart from these people who are trying to save their land, we have the vigilantes, as the esteemed professor was saying earlier. We have these youth groups. We have this group of lumpens. And we still have 3,000 arms which are outside with the unwanted elements. Out of the 4,500, only 1,000 have been brought in. So you can imagine that these 3,000 weapons, which will go into the hand of these militants or other people, we are in a state of absolute fluid condition. And also remember, the suspension of operations, there is no clarity. The state had stopped, they said we don't recognize it anymore. And we have about 2,200 cadres living in those 18 camps. And there is no verification whether they are there, whether there are any weapons. We have no verification about on the Methi side whether those people who are creating trouble have been arrested or not. The crimes which had taken place against the women and other crimes, whether the process has begun or not. So, given this condition, unless we act immediately, this will go into a downward spiral of violence. And I'm very sorry to see this state of affairs.
Rami is back with us. Rami, this is a ground report with many other ground reports in which clearly it shows that the society had reorganized itself. You know, the weapons are there. They have become comfortable. You know, the so-called, what do you call, borders have been redrawn not on the basis of geography but on the basis of ethnicity. So if you look at these ground reports, you will understand that there is a coexistence of different forces of the state with those which are organizing themselves locally, and they are primarily at a very ethnic lines. Your first comment, Rami.
Karthike, Brajesh, good morning. You know, of course, we've seen this conflict go on for many months now. I have to say, you know, as much as it is very difficult for us to watch one of our states be in conflict like this amongst populations that have lived together for centuries, we also have to recognize the fact that violence is tapering, the incidence of violence has gone down. And as I have been discussing this with you from the very beginning, you know, you may remember that, you know, there was a time when there was absolutely no voices heard from either of the sides calling for peace. They were very hardlined into what they wanted and how they saw the developments in the future. Wherein what is heartwarming now is the same voices I see now are ready to secede space. They are ready to go into dialogue and are tired of the state of flux that the communities are in. But having said that, we must also recognize the fact that a lot of the northeastern states have had village guards, which means people from the villages that are positioned to protect their villages, not just for events like this, for other events as well. And those are the guards that we see in Manipur. So as much as we may think that these are locals who picked up arms or are being positioned to save themselves. That may be one of the reasons, but the other reasons is that the northeastern states has had this organization of village guards that is made out of people who are between the ages of 21 and 50, who have known to have good characters and are from the villages themselves. It was just yesterday that I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Nagaland also appealed for such village guards to be given a stipend as well by the government. So this is that level of organization also that we are seeing in Manipur. And I think, because the village guards are from the villages, they're duty bound to stand guard and protect their villages and the villagers. So as much as we are seeing this organization in one lens, we also have to see that these organizations have existed for a while. But having said that, the fault lines, we've discussed this multiple times before, the fault lines have deepened to an extent that is not even close to ideal. And I think those fault lines are going to be very difficult to bridge, not just because of the trust deficit now, but because, I think there is a very inherent fear of the other that has seeped in. We will really have to move very quickly on our civil society engagements. And like I said, I've seen like a shift from a point where nobody was willing to go into dialogue with each other to today the same civil society is willing to go into dialogue with each other. Of course, that will need a neutral mediator, that necessarily doesn't need to be from the government or, from either of the tribes. The Nagas are the third party in Manipur, so maybe the Nagas can step up and be mediators, or, other vested parties from across the country can be mediators. But I think with a neutral mediator, the groups now that are willing to engage must be brought on ground, and that engagement must begin now. And I also think, I had mentioned this right at the beginning, Karthike, if you remember, that, the larger fear is of a ripple effect. And that ripple effect has a potential to destabilize a region that has definitely seen relative peace. And we are seeing certain kind of developments take place in states like Mizoram. I think there has to be immediate intervention there. We cannot allow any sort of ripple effect to have any sort of position in other states joining Manipur, because that puts the fear of another bout of violence starting, which we cannot at this point afford. So I think these are the areas that we really need to focus on, and we really need to intervene.